Welcome everyone to the Thrive presentation for tonight, the Climate Action Plan Phase 2, electric vehicle charging stations in downtown Amherstburg. My name is Corey Reno. I'm a Thrive director and a proud Amherstburg resident. I will be tonight's MC for the presentation. Just before we get started into the actual Climate Action Plan, there's just a little bit of a background on what Thrive is. So Thrive is a volunteer initiative that's working to help make Amherstburg even better for both residents and visitors as well. All of our initiatives, this climate action plan is one of the important ones that we're working on. All of our initiatives are put through a very disciplined lens. We look at evidence-backed data. We're very mindful of international and domestic best practices. We kind of tailor those to our town. We're always attentive to the science. Climate change and health and wellness are key and part of every initiative that we're taking part in. We're always trying to be positive, and we're very transparent in what we're doing. Just a little more background. In 2021, 3 white papers were delegated to council. We championed open air to be continued in 2022. We championed creating a heritage district. And we also championed tree planting, a test that is going to actually be launching on April 23rd. So we're very, very happy and very positive with these results. So it's great to see the feedback we've received on a lot of these initiatives already. So that brings us to tonight's topic. Fellow Thrive members and Amherstburg residents Ken Morrison and Felicia Cristofaro will be taking us through the Climate Action Plan, Phase 2. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Ken and Felicia. Ken, it's all yours.
Okay, thanks, Corey. Appreciate it. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming out tonight. I know we've had our first sunny and warm day in quite some time. So the fact that you're here and on the presentation means you're dedicated to understanding more about electric vehicles, and we really appreciate it. My name's Ken Morrison. I'm a proud Amherstburg resident. Been here 3 years now. We chose to move to Amherstburg 3 years ago. Chose the community because it's a very thriving community. It's got a lot of walkable features to it. We enjoy going to the downtown area in particular, and the events when we had them prior to COVID, even some of the ones we've had through the COVID period, attending the restaurants. And really, it's an important part of just kind of giving back to the community, which is what really attracted me to be a part of Thrive. Over 33 years as a professional engineer, doing energy, water, wastewater initiatives and projects. So this one really fits and was near and dear to my heart to help and move this along for the town itself. Tonight's topic is on electric vehicle charging stations in downtown Amherstburg. And really a lot of this comes out of the whole concern around range anxiety. And we've got the definition there around what that is for folks. But I also want to tell a little story that Richard Petty told me. So a few years back, one of our local counselors had some guests come from out of town, and they had a Tesla. And as it was, there wasn't any convenient charging infrastructure here in town. So the counselor asked Richard if his guests could actually charge their vehicle at his house, which he was very happy to allow them to do that. But it's kind of a good example of how do you attract tourism into your community if you don't have the infrastructure that is required so that people will say, hey, I can go there and get back home again or go to the next destination. So it's a real key part of what we're looking at tonight. I'm going to hand it over now to Felicia, and she's going to take the first run through the slides, and we'll talk again in a few slides.
Thanks, Ken. So hi there, my name is Felicia Cristofaro. I'm also an Amherstburg resident. I was raised here. I've also lived in Ottawa and Amsterdam, and I'm really happy to be back here in Amherstburg as I start to raise my own family. You can see I'm one of 9 people that worked on this white paper, and a big thanks to this group. We're proud of what we've been able to put together here. I'm excited to be working on this initiative with Thrive because I want to help make our town be an amazing, happening place to live. In the last couple of years, we've seen a tremendous amount of growth downtown. We've seen new businesses, restaurants, gyms, a yoga studio, and we've seen explosive growth in the neighborhoods surrounding town. People want to live here. They are moving here, they want to raise their families here. And to keep that momentum of growth, it's crucial that Amherstburg keeps up with infrastructure and technological progress. It's ideal to make it easy for tourists and visitors to get here. Electric vehicles are becoming increasingly popular. Within 4 years, 20% of all cars on the road will be electric. And by 2030, one of every three cars sold will be electric. Currently, as Ken pointed out, Amherstburg has no way to accommodate electric vehicles. And with a new EV plant coming to Windsor, electric vehicles are going to become increasingly popular in our area. To keep people visiting and to better care for our residents, we need public infrastructure in town. So we're looking at two different types of EV chargers. Level 2 chargers typically cost around $1 an hour and will take around 5 hours to charge around 200 kilometers from an empty battery. So leaving your car plugged into a level 2 charger for 1 hour will cost you around $1 and get you about 50 kilometers of range. Level 3 are known as the fast chargers and cost drivers around $15 an hour. You get 160 kilometers of charge from an empty battery in only 30 minutes. So this is much faster than the level 2, but both are great options for when you need a top up. For both chargers, you have the option to run into town for a coffee or an errand, a couple of hours for dinner, some live music, plug in your car, and have plenty of charge to get back home. We're recommending that council put in a mix of both level 2 and level 3 charging stations. So you can see these are what the chargers look like. ChargePoint and Flow are commonly used in other municipalities. You can see here the level 3 and level 2 infrastructure for each. The level 3 chargers are slightly larger than the level 2 chargers. They're about 7 feet tall, 2.5 feet wide, and 1.5 feet deep. So that's taller, but actually takes up less of a footprint than a gas pump. And unlike gas pumps, these chargers don't need their own commercial space. They can be added right into existing parking lots. These are 4 possible locations for EV charging stations in public parking lots in the downtown core. The potential locations are co-located with key tourist attractions to help facilitate charging time with visits. These locations each have the space for EV infrastructure to be added without removing regular parking spots. So you can see we have the lot next to Caffeine and Company. Number 2 is the corner of Richmond and Ramsey. Number 3 is the parking lot at Heritage Square. And number 4 is Toddy Jones Park. Another important note here is that these locations are all within walking distance to other attractions downtown. So increased foot traffic will help our local businesses and restaurants, so everyone benefits. Typical costs for EV chargers range from around $10,000 to $18,000 for level 2 and range from around $42,000 to $83,000 for a level 3. So you can see these units are not prohibitively expensive. The timing right now for Amherstburg to install EV chargers might be perfect because there's a golden opportunity for us to get a significant portion of these costs covered. And I'll let Ken speak to that.
Thanks, Felicia. So when we look at the Charge Up Windsor program, and we actually have Eric Fries here tonight from Essex Energy, and they're running the program overall, and he'll have a chance to speak a little bit more to the program in a minute. But it becomes a really excellent opportunity overall for the community and for the town of Amherstburg to put in this infrastructure and then also have up to 50% of the cost recovered, covered off. So it's really going to be a great way to subsidize that investment in that critical infrastructure. They've been accepting applications. The process is open. It started in December. And they're looking at a number of different legal entities, but municipalities are certainly one that is on the list. So they're really encouraging, various municipalities to come in and be a participant in this. And it should be kind of mentioned that the town of Amherstburg is actually a shareholder of Essex Power Line, so it's kind of a good way to work together within the overall kind of shareholder structure, the community of Essex Power Lines, and what they're trying to do. We've talked about having a range of chargers, and that's, again, like Felicia said, it gives you that mix and allows people to charge at different rates depending on what their need is. And overall, the cost of these things really kind of varies based on the type of charger and the number of chargers put in, but we're looking at probably between $50,000 and $100,000 for the various types of chargers that we're looking at per location. So with that, I'm going to introduce Eric. Eric Fries is the program coordinator at Essex Energy, and he's going to give us a little bit of an overview on the program, the interest level, and kind of the infrastructure readiness. So I'll hand it over to him. Eric, take it away.
Thanks, Ken. Thank you for having me here tonight. As you mentioned, this is a program being run by NRCan, Natural Resources Canada, but Essex Energy is hosting it for them in the Windsor-Essex area. What the program is looking to do is to maximize the electric vehicle charging infrastructure within Canada, and for us specifically within the Windsor-Essex area. So how it works is, before any procurement costs or anything is done, first people send in applications to us. And what we're looking for is 5 different streams. It's workplaces, public places, on-street, multi-unit residential buildings, or light vehicle duty fleets. At this time, we're not doing residential. From that, we're looking at any of the chargers and their levels. As mentioned, the fast chargers are the level 2s. Each application can have up to $100,000, but there can be multiple applications per applicant. The program's running until March 31st of 2024. However, it is subject to the amount of funding that we have available at the time. And to give you an idea of how it's been going so far, we've been doing this for about 4 months now, and we're at about 48% of the available funding is being used if everything were to be completed right now. So there's a lot of uptake to this program, which we're happy to see, and people are really excited about it. In terms of who we're working with right now, it's several of the municipalities in the area, along with a lot of independent businesses looking to get the chargers put in place. And in terms of infrastructure readiness, the grid is ready to handle it. Specifically, in terms of level 2s, there's not much of a concern from speaking with the engineering team at Essex Energy. It's more so when we're looking at the level 3s, there just needs to be a little bit of an investigation from the engineering team, but it can be done quite quickly right now. And with that, I'll pass back to Ken.
Thanks, Eric. That was excellent. Appreciate you giving us that overview. And this is one of the things when we start to look at, Corey, if we go to the next slide on timing, really there's a sense of urgency here. We're hearing already the program is 48% kind of subscribed to in terms of funding. And even though time-wise, it goes out to 2024, March of 31st of 2024, kind of time is of the essence. We need to get moving on it. There's also a considerable amount of work that needs to be done as well. So you want to get your submission in, go through the process, get it approved. There's the sites themselves have to be looked at, approved, all the conditions on those sites. So, it's a parking lot, what's around it, how do you actually get the service there, and then what kind of restoration. So there's a number of tasks that need to be done kind of in the overall project schedule. Things like approval by the town themselves, you got to place the order for the equipment, get it supplied, and then the construction and commissioning. So it seems like there's quite a bit of time to get on this, but both in terms of the funding being taken up as well as just the work that needs to be done so that we can actually get it in place as quickly as possible. So it's really key for us to get this moving along very quickly. I think we can go to the next slide. So really, what's the rationale for EV chargers? We really look at this as, essential infrastructure for a healthy, vibrant community. The community has gas stations now, and they're considered to be a critical part for the community to survive. And this is the same type of infrastructure going forward. This part of Ontario and Canada is going to be kind of a powerhouse for electric vehicles. You want to be a part of that and stay really plugged into that, no pun intended. I think the other thing that's really interesting is that the Nuclear Innovation Institute, they did a study and really warned that rural regions in Ontario in particular, they're at risk of losing key tourist business without critical EV infrastructure. So Amherstburg's got a healthy tourist bent to it as well, with the events that happen and all the restaurants and businesses. And so they want to make sure that people are coming here as a destination as much as they want to live here as well. We're seeing a lot more investment just in general by the Canadian government for infrastructure for electric vehicles, and there's going to be more competition to get things done. So the sooner we get on this, the better we actually move forward on getting the chargers in place. I think the other thing that's important to note here is that the town has actually, declared that climate emergency back in November of 2019. So the question is, what action are you taking? And you need to commit to the action plan. And this is a real key component. It's actually an easy item to address and move forward with, is the supporting of that transition for electric vehicles. And when you look at carbon emissions, transportation is by and large one of the largest areas that needs to be tackled as we move forward. So if we go down to the next slide. So really the recommendation here is based on the fact that this is a fantastic opportunity for council to have this new infrastructure installed and to save residents quite a bit of money by having it done through this program. We want to look at 2 to 4 in those different locations. That's what we're looking at and saying these are the best opportunities to support and provide infrastructure in the downtown. Obviously, the town needs to look at that and say, are these the right places from our perspective? But generally speaking, we think there should be 2 to 4 and take advantage of this. It's going to support attracting tourists to Amherstburg, support businesses, restaurants, events. And I think we have to look at the fact that it helps us ensure that we're, it's an opportunity for Amherstburg to be a leader in this space going forward. We need to get the submission made and approved and really get it moving forward in the near term. So if we go to the next slide. So overall, it's essential for the downtown area to have EV infrastructure, and it really helps us to move forward and address climate change. So I want to thank everybody tonight for coming out and supporting this initiative. And I think another way that we're really looking for you guys to help support it is kind of 2 things. The survey, if you haven't gone in and completed it, go on the website and support the survey, fill it out, because it really helps put together, some key data for us to use when we talk to people like council. And we will post it on the website, but we're looking to do a delegation to council. Probably we're working on confirming the date. It's looking at like either April 25th or May 9th as the council delegation that'll be going there. So it'll be myself and Felicia and Eric have committed to go and put this recommendation forth to council. So with that, I think, Corey, we can open it up for questions and answers.
Absolutely. Yeah. So if anybody has any questions, if you can raise your hand in Zoom, we'll call upon you, or if you can unmute, we can do it that way if you can't find the little raise your hand icon. Or if you're not comfortable speaking on camera, or you're welcome to add any questions into the chat feature as well. Okay, so the first question is from Pino. Apologize if I
Perfect, thank you.
Pronounce your name.
Yes, I was just wondering with the Essex Power Lines program and Thrive Amherstburg, if you're considering faster chargers in both the level 2 and DC fast charge units, due to the fact that pretty much the standards and expectations have risen in the last couple of years with new cars that charge faster than the average 6.6 kilowatt unit found in public spaces. And same goes with DC fast chargers. People are expecting more than 50 kilowatt charging speeds, as the new cars, the newer models, can charge faster. So people that are in a rush or need a full charge are going to be very particular. In many locations, they have multiple speeds to choose from even. It helps a lot with EV drivers getting the way around and being comfortable to go to Amherstburg for an outing in between, destinations. So there's also a difference in voltage between, for level 2, commercial voltage runs at 208 versus 240 volt. So basically that reduces your charging speed by 20% to begin with. And if it's capped at 30 amps, it just limits how much charge you can get in an hour. So basically, when I go to the Devonshire Mall, for example, and I go there strictly because the advantage of having a charging station for me while I'm traveling, but it charges slower than it does at home. So basically it takes 2.5 hours to get a full charge for a plug-in hybrid versus 2 hours or less. So it just helps to kind of be up to date with the newest speeds, I think is my recommendation and the preference of the newest EV drivers, at least the ones with the newest models as well.
Yeah, I would concur with
Yeah.
that. And as we're looking at this, that's our recommendation too, is to look at, DC fast chargers for sure. And I think it's going to be a combination of, grid capacity and ability of the infrastructure to actually deliver kind of those charging rates, because that's sometimes a constraint as well. But I think that's definitely the expectation is faster and higher rates of charging is where the whole industry is moving to. And you don't want to put in infrastructure and find out already that it's kind of obsolete. So, that's why we're saying, a combination might be the right mix here. So it's some DC fast charging at higher plus 50 if possible. And then, maybe a level 2 for somebody who's going to an event and they're going to be here for a couple hours and, they can spend some time and just keep it plugged in, whereas somebody that's coming in and wants to grab a coffee and maybe, something at a local shop or go to the bank or something, they would just want to top it up. That's the fast charger approach.
Exactly. Thank you. If I may add one more comment, I think that may be helpful is also having more than one plug per location, even if you have multiple location, gives people the confidence that they stand a chance of finding an available plug at the location. So the confidence just allows you to not think twice before choosing downtown Amherstburg for an outing. I personally would I do come to Amherstburg. It's a great place to come to dine and walk and enjoy many sites and amenities. And I would definitely come more often if there were some available plugs, especially for plug-in hybrid, local plug-in hybrid drivers. They need to plug in more often to reduce the need of using gas. And then for people that live far away, they definitely have to have a plug just to consider coming to visit. So I applaud the efforts and ideas here. Thanks for everything.
Yeah, no, it's really great to have somebody that's, living this every day, and some of the challenges, especially somebody that wants to visit and, have more opportunity to come to Amherstburg, but sees this as a limitation because it really speaks from firsthand knowledge and experience of some of the challenges.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you. Yeah, there's a comment here just in the chat. Yesterday, Joe Biden signed legislation requiring auto manufacturers to have vehicles with an average of 40 miles to the gallon. This could mean that the 1 in 3 number could be really understated. Yep. Okay.
Yeah, I know last week the Prime Minister, really kind of accelerated the expectations around the transition to electric vehicles, 20% in the next 4 years and 60% by 2030. That being the requirements for the Canadian situation. So, that's going to transition us even quicker than what we thought, a couple of weeks ago.
Okay, we've got a question for Narika.
Hi, thanks for sharing this presentation. I basically work with municipalities near Barrie on climate plans, and what we're working on, and I live in Windsor, Ontario, by the way, but I just wanted to share what we're working on up there in terms of electric charger installations, as well as, how that works in tandem with public needs as well as municipal needs. So what we're planning going forward is installing a mixture of level 2 and level 3 chargers, but there's also and it will be through the NRCan program. Like a lot, we're going to be applying to that program once we have an idea of where and when to install these charging infrastructures. But the idea is that there are ways that the municipality can use this opportunity to their benefit. The certain municipalities up there are already, wherever they've got charging infrastructure in place, it's being used by the public as well as the fleet. And so when it's charged to the public, the municipality is able to recover some of the costs of the installation. And it would be super beneficial to actually get ahead of that, and for the municipality to get ahead of that instead of waiting for the county to come in or maybe private funders to come in, because there'll be a certain amount of uniformity there. The other element of that is that even what we are hearing is even right now, the current NRCan funding is, the stream is closed, but they're opening a new one in spring. And that one's supposed to be open-ended in terms of receiving applications. But we also, again, want to get ahead of that and make sure we take advantage of it before it becomes mainstream and the funding dries up. So I think this is a good time for the white paper to come out and bring it front and center and say we need to sort of jump on this. Or it's just, again, it just becomes a part of what everybody does, and where we could have taken advantage of some monetizing opportunities. So yeah, just, I don't know, I thought those comments would be helpful.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you, Narika.
Yeah, no, I think they're all very important points. And, we've talked about that kind of internally, that, you want to get ahead of this and not behind it for a whole variety of reasons. Funding, I think just there's going to be constraints even on the ability to get the infrastructure. So the chargers themselves, as there's more and more interest in this, it's going to be, maybe longer lead times to actually get the charging units and whatnot. So, let's get the applications in and move quickly on this so we actually can get the infrastructure in place.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
actually, Eric.
Sorry, I just wanted to, the other aspect of this is that this provides opportunities for innovation as well. I understand that we are seeking energy independence out here. The county had released a community energy plan, and the idea of that was to localize energy production and attaching solar panels to charge the charging stations. There could be ideas like that could be used, that could be sort of developed further. It's just that I know that at the federal level, they tend to accept applications that are a little bit more innovative, that have a strategy in place. Like, let's say we want 30 chargers and we want that, instead of asking for individual chargers at individualized locations, I think it would be best suited to have an application that can combine several elements of again, on-site power generation and things like that as well. So.
Great.
Excellent point. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Again, just raise your hand in Zoom or simply unmute yourself if we.
I actually have one for Eric.
Okay.
Eric, what's the turnaround time? Because you said 4 months it's been open, you're 48% of funding used. So what's the turnaround time in terms of business days from the application?
Oh, so I meant 40% of the funding is allocated. So that's programs have captured that. It's not that it's actually being given out yet. It's that
right.
It's being set
Sorry,
aside.
I meant it's been spoken for.
Yes. But in terms of what we're seeing is, if you're looking for more like Canadian made, you're looking at around anywhere from 4 weeks at the very, very best of the situation, more like 6 weeks just to be safe. And for non-domestic, you're probably looking upwards of anywhere from 4 to 6 months. But again, with the supply chains, how they are right now, it's very tenuous to say that.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think, Eric, you mentioned that was dependent on whether it's a level 2 or DC fast charger as well. Is that right?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And how long does it take EPC to review the applications roughly?
Typically 2 to 3 weeks. We're at about 2 weeks now.
Okay.
keeping it.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
And I think this question here in the chat just kind of ties into that. Eric, is there a percentage breakdown of DC fast chargers versus level 2 that you're seeing? I don't know if you're able to speak on that.
I don't have the exact numbers, but that is something that I could pull tomorrow and send out. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions?
It's Leo Malash here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yep.
Go ahead, Mr. Malash.
Okay. Again, yeah, great initiative to to attempt to build an infrastructure. I'm gonna talk about the flip side of EV and some of the things we've talked about at Solid Waste Authority. Some of the things that we talk about. Be careful what you ask for; you might get it. The dealing with what we're going to call the end of the life cycle and disposal. And I think that has to get pushed along with putting infrastructure in. But we as a community that's involved in environmental issues must also recognize the downside to batteries, end of life, in terms of, when again, we talked about, what's going to end up in landfills at Solid Waste Authority. But I know there are companies right now, there's a global one called Veolia or some of that are in the battery recycling. So, I mean, that there will be, I guess, an industry that will develop, I guess, with the use of or with the projected 10 to 15 years down the road, as these batteries start to get to the end of life, we're going to have another problem to deal with. And I guess we all got to be cognizant and push forward with not just infrastructure, but how we're going to deal with the end byproduct. And I guess we got to be cognizant of that is all I guess I'm trying to say.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really excellent point. There's a lot of talk about the circular economy, and I think this really gets to that. You've got, products that, reach end of life, and what do you do to reclaim the viable things that are within that product? I know I've read a number of the auto manufacturers are looking at how to actually ensure that we've got that cycle happening and recapturing things like lithium and other elements that we need for these battery packs, because you don't want to have, introduce more waste into a community, but also be mining more out of the earth itself. So it's a very important point as we move forward, and it's certainly one that's going to have to be addressed.
Well, and again, we can't just talk about it. I mean, we sit here, we'll talk about that, and we say companies are, but yes, there has to be some kind of government or some kind of regulation. The market will dictate some of it anyway as we move forward in terms of the value of the recycled product. So I mean, industry will develop, but as long as industry is not late in developing, I guess we don't want to get to a crisis position, I guess is what I'm trying to say with tons of batteries hanging around as we did with tires. I used to be in the tire business, so I'm stockpiles of tires, and so just the environmental impacts of all of that. I guess I'm trying to be cognizant of it, and we also have to push, I guess, in our minds, but push for that, as you call it, the circular economy aspect.
Yep, I agree.
Okay, thank you.
If I may contribute to the discussion.
Okay. Yep, go ahead.
This is Pino again. It's a valid concern, but it's a concern I don't lose any sleep over with. It's already pretty much being dealt with. For example, LG, who just made a plant investment with Chrysler, they already have a contract to recycle their batteries, including their scraps from manufacturing, and just in a day-to-day manufacturing process with Life Cycle out of Kingston and Buffalo, New York. Their Life Cycle, Redwood are two companies in North America that are already recycling batteries as we speak. There's recycling in Quebec as well. Most of their recycling comes from personal electronics, because the electric car batteries, other than a few from collisions and the scrap from manufacturing, are no supply for now. But as cars get older, they'll start to have a supply of recycling. But GM has already come out with contracts with the recycling company as we speak, and even companies that haven't built the battery yet have signed up, the contracts to handle the recycling needs as they become ready. Even speaking to an executive at Chrysler, they are already pretty much are required to make those plans in advance. They're already making plans to recycle batteries of their vehicles that they even haven't started making yet. Of course, they made a lot of Pacifica plug-in hybrids, so those batteries will become available for recycling in the near future as well. And of course, the manufacturing scrap, those batteries come from Michigan, so those are dealt with LG's disposal needs with the contracts they already have with Life Cycle, for example. So I'm not concerned about battery recycling. That those batteries are way more valuable as scrap than even their 12-volt lead acid batteries we have in our cars to start the engines and so on. So there's just too much value in those batteries, even as scrap, to be thrown away in the landfill. So I don't think that ever was a concern, in my opinion.
Well, but you say that, but if we don't address it today, it could potentially be a concern. And that's more what I'm trying to say is you build that safeguard into the system up front. You don't wait to say, oh, Jesus, something happened, we got a problem. And that's all I'm trying to say here is we got to think at both ends of the equation here.
For sure. Hopefully it's in regulation. If not, it should be in government laws, just to make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely none end up in the landfill for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Agreed. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, thank you very much, Pino.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions or comments? Okay. All right. All right, Ken, did you have anything else? Looks like we've got all the questions answered here.
No, I think we've had a good, healthy dialogue here and conversation. So we've covered everything out from my view.
Perfect.
Felicia, anything you want to add?
Yeah, let's just remind everyone, go to thriveamherstburg.com, get the survey, read the white paper, fill it out, because we are going to council in a few weeks, and it's helpful to have as many responses as possible.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you very much, Felicia, Ken, Eric, and for all your questions. As mentioned, this will be going to council soon. We're still working on finalizing the date, but look for that either April 25th or early in May. We do have a few more white papers that are coming up as well throughout this year. Active transportation is going to be a big one in May, affordable housing, and reduced speed limits. So these are all initiatives that Thrive will be working on. So new white papers will be coming out for those, and we would be looking to delegate those to council as well. So I just want to thank everybody for coming out tonight. Really appreciate your participation and your feedback. Please visit the website, thriveamherstburg.com. If you're not a member, please sign up. It's free to join. And more importantly, at this point right now, if you can read the white paper, if you haven't read it, I'd love to get your feedback on that survey. So that concludes tonight's presentation. Again, thank you for joining.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.